Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Gaining Authority with Your Personal Story, brought to you by our presenting partners, CGI, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, and PSC&G, our business roundtable partner, Citizens Bank, our meeting partner, HR for Your Small Business, and our event partners, Association Member Trust, Focus New Jersey, Manufacturing Counts, NJBIA HR Support, our TV show Minding Your Business, New Jersey Magazine, and our Planet New Jersey podcast. I'm Brandon Bedlivy, Business Development, Sponsorship Sales for New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Before we begin, I'd like to give a big shout out to our 2025 Leadership Series co-chairs, Bertia Chambers, founder and CEO of Epic Transformation, Lorena Mosquera, president and founder LW&H Workflow Strategies, Stephanie Staub, director, Infrastructure and Energy Strategy and Workforce Partnership, New Jersey Community Colleges, and Sally Jo O'Brien, founder and executive coach of Mercury Leadership. And of course, another big thank you to all our amazing partners for making this event possible. For those of you who may be new to NJBIA, we are the largest statewide business association in the country. We represent New Jersey businesses at the State House, advocate for balanced and sensible laws and regulations, and provide growth opportunities through networking, sponsorships, magazine advertising, and exposure on our TV show Minding Your Business on NJTV 12. We also help our members save time and money through a self-funded healthcare program, a 401k solution with full administration and oversight, an HR support platform with legislative updates, policy templates, job descriptions, and salary benchmarking tools. Our new HR Essentials program even combines live HR support with 30 plus digital training courses for you and your staff. Speaking of training, we do have another great program coming up on October 21st. This program is focused on digital leadership and innovation. It is part of our leadership series and is completely virtual, just like today. I hope you can join us for that one. Just for a few housekeeping notes before we go underway. Today's session is being recorded, and you'll all receive a copy via email within the next few days. Our speaker, Kim O'Hara, will be happy to take all of your questions throughout this time. Please feel free to drop any of them in the chat at any time, and as time permits, we'll get to all of them if we can. As a little introduction for Kim O'Hara, I'm very excited to introduce her. Kim has guided more than 50 thought leaders, speakers, and business visionaries through the journey of book discovery, writing, and developing an author game plan. Her clients' books have been featured as the Today Show Motivational Book of the Month on The Kelly Clarkson Show and recognized as Wall Street Journal Top 10 Business Books and #1 in Barnes& Noble Nonfiction. Kim helps her clients use their books to position themselves as go-to authorities, launch new brands, and tell stories that truly connect with audiences. She's passionate about inspiring women in the quote-unquote sandwich generation, writes a weekly Substack column called Give Yourself Permission, and is currently writing a book about living a delicious life with plans to launch a podcast in late 2025. Please join me in welcoming Kim O'Hara. Kim, the floor is yours. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Thank you, Brandon, for inviting me. I would love to be able to see Brandon if that's possible. I guess if I see a lot of people who don't have their cameras on. This is a very sort of interactive talk where sort of in the beginning, I'm going to ask some questions. If you don't want to turn your camera on, then maybe there's a way to put your answers in the chat, and that would be great. Brandon, is there a way to have me see everybody? I only see one, two, three, four people. I guess if I'm the spotlight, that's not possible, right?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be hard to see everyone.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we can drop it in the chat. That's fine. All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, hi, it's Danielle. So because you are the speaker I'm going to be sharing, it's hard for you to view all the speakers.
Okay,
Sorry, all the participants.
that's okay. I understand. Yeah, I like to just see people, but that's okay. The chat's fine. My name's Kim O'Hara, And if you're looking for a nice, soft, gentle talk about how to revise your bio, this is not going to be that talk. Um, it's important for me to get through the message after doing this for so long about truth and vulnerability when you're telling your story. You know, there is a lot of noise out there for us as business owners, for us as leaders, for us as women. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is, really grounding down and getting clear on what parts of your story you feel comfortable to share. And the parts that are the most potent are usually the areas we don't want to share. And those are the exact areas that are going to make us stand out. It can feel really scary, I know, but we're going to do some work today in some breakout rooms. And I'm going to ask you a lot of really good questions about your narrative and where you feel like your authority could be stronger through your own personal narrative. It's 6:30 in the morning for me here well, it's 7 a.m. now for me here in Los Angeles. So I am coffeeed up, but I'm also menopausal. So I may forget things or suddenly get very like hot. And so I'm just letting you know in advance. I have learned through my journey that I don't have to be perfect in any time I share. I'm very raw. I have a script. I might go off of it. It really just depends on what energetically I feel from the group. And I do a lot of my talks from the energy of the group. I'm originally from the East Coast. I'm from Rhode Island. I've spent a lot of time in my 20s in Hoboken. So I feel New Jersey flowing through my veins. I've got that New Yorker edge, even though I've been in LA for a long time. So that's where a lot of the straight talk comes from. Before I start my talk here and do the slideshow that I'm going to present, maybe just since I can't see a show of hands, which was originally my intent, which makes it kind of fast, but I would love for you to drop in the chat if you have done one of the following forms of writing for yourself, your career, a movement, a platform, something you're doing. Are you writing a blog? Are you writing a book? Are you writing a newsletter? Have you written a Substack or have you had any kind of published article? I just want to kind of get a gauge of where we're laddering up from here in our talk. I can kind of see where you are at with your comfort zone of writing. So just take a minute to drop into the chat something or the level. If you have written nothing and you are coming from ground zero, you're stuck, you feel like you have writer's block, you want to write, but you are nervous and don't know where to begin, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I see some right. Having written nothing, that's great. Great place to start. Blogs, newsletters, anthology book, blogs and small articles, first blog post next week. That's exciting. Maybe we'll be able to help you today come up with some more ideas for that blog post. It looks like we have mostly blogging. Let's see. Haven't written anything. Thank you for posting that, Andrew. Again, great place to start. Um, Great. So I see blogs, social media, a few articles. And so, this is wherever you are, I want you to sort of put in the back of your mind today where you want to launch to from this talk, right? So it could be a baby step, right? Say you've written a couple blogs and you would like to do something different. What would that different be, right? And if you have written a blog, where have you kind of written the blog, but you didn't really talk about what you really wanted to talk about? Like you played it safe, right? We're in a time where we can't play it safe anymore. We have to really go out there and say who we are. And I'm going to talk more about that. Let me start my slideshow here. And okay. All right. So, like I said in the beginning, we're going to talk about telling your story with authority and from my point of view, vulnerability and truth are where you're going to get the most attention from people out in the marketplace. Um, who am I? So, I'll tell you like my personal story over, especially over the last 11 years that I've been a book coach has not evolved that much. It's probably evolved twice. But what I've allowed myself to do within those 11 years is make decisions about how I want to tell my story about who I am. And then when that stops working, I've stopped and then I've tried something else. And so I've always sort of pivoted with my story, but I've always gone from a core place of who I am. And I'm always checking in to see how that core place of who I am is evolving. So when I first started being a book coach, I came from a place of, you know, I had gone through, I knew a lot about trauma. I had gotten divorced. I was a single mom. And so, for a little while, I was working a lot with people that did like memoirs, right? And like had written about trauma and like what I could identify with. And I had come from the movie business where a lot of my movies were about troubled people, right? And then as time went on and I became more solid in how to do business books and how to do self-help books, I was also evolving in my own self-help, in my own process. And so I was able to work with narratives that were, building systems and coming up with solutions for problems that people were having that authors wanted to serve. So then I was doing a newsletter about that. And I was talking about that evolution. And so we get to continue to look at where we are as people, tandem to where we are in our business. And we get to decide how to merge those two and pivot, right? But continually being honest and open and sharing. This is why I am where I'm at in my business. This is just a little bit about me. I'm a book coach. I'm an editor. I've published a book. I have a second one I'm shopping. I do the column, as Brandon said. I have two daughters, and these are my socials. Okay, so what I wanted to start talking about first is values. I don't want to talk about values in like a self-helpy sort of way. I mean, there is like so many books now that are written about like your values and your goals and make your value list and do your value bubble and do your goal. Like, I don't want to talk about it that way. I'm talking about values in terms of like a really deeply honest story that exemplifies who you are and what you stand for. And that is told through how you behave. You can't behave one way and then lead a business another way. They will collide. You will start to see discrepancies in sales, in conversations you're having with people. But when you tell like a good, deep, honest story about yourself or about what you've experienced or about what you represent, and I don't know what you all do. I'm hoping through the breakout room and I'll jump in to the breakout rooms. I think we're going to do two. I'll learn a little bit more about what you all are doing. But I can tell you, like, it doesn't matter whether you're like a real estate agent or a life coach or a dentist. How you are representing yourself out there with your values of what you stand for and the personal story that you tell matters. Now, there's a lot of people that choose to just not tell a personal story. They just, have their businesses and they do fine and they do well. But I know for a fact, like speaking of dentists, I'm gonna go off script here for a minute, but like for example, like I have a dentist who drives me nuts because she's constantly trying to get me to like up my dental game. right? Which I've refused to do for a long time. So I'm having all sorts of dental problems. So now she's like, "Are you ready to actually like do things right?" And she's like from Egypt and she's like hardcore and her values are do it right the first time or you're gonna have problems. And I finally like get it. And I'm like, here, take all my money and help me out. So she doesn't necessarily have a blog or a newsletter. She's not on Instagram. She's not selling anything, but she's very clear what she stands for. And she has told me stories because we've spent a lot of time together recently, but she's told me stories about people that come in that want the cheap route and how upset that makes her because she believes you do it right first or don't do it, right? So we can be scared sometimes to go out with our stories that are based on our values because we think we're going to lose customers. But I can tell you the customers that I get when I hedge on my values are the nightmares. They're just the nightmare clients that you just wish you never signed on. So when we are aligned with our values and in the stories we tell about ourselves and the stories we tell about how we want to run our businesses, we attract people that are also in alignment with those personal stories. How do we attract people that are in alignment with those personal stories? They hear our stories. That's the only way. That's the only way is that they're going to know is through that communication. And that's deciding how you want to do that. Again, is it a blog? Is it a newsletter? Is it a podcast? Are you ready to write a book? Some people blog and they've been blogging for a while and they're like, I just can't get to this real depth of what I want to do, talk about in a blog anymore. I want to publish a book. I feel like I have a concept that is unique and fresh that nobody else has done, and I want to put it in a book. So when we are in that energetic space of operating on a false narrative, when we're trying to copy other people and the way that they are running their lives, their businesses, their story, it doesn't, it'll inevitably not work because you will start taking actions that don't connect to your personal narrative and your personal story. I have had people tell me in my business, why are you trying to be like other book, like early on, they told me this. It was the greatest lesson. Why are you trying to be like other book coaches? Why are you trying to do what other people just do what you do, right? And that's scary, right? Because you could be like, oh my God, what happens if nobody likes what I do? It doesn't matter. You are only you. There's nothing you can change. You can't change where you came from. You can't change the messages you've gotten in your life. All you can do is to shape them into a narrative that helps you find your people and your customers and your tribe, right? Because they're out there and they're looking for you. That is the most important thing to remember is that they are looking for you. So when you're not honest in your story, when you are trying to be like other people because you think it's going to work, you are denying those people your services. And it can definitely be a little bit scary, right? It can be like a waiting game, right? It can be like, wait, like I just put out a newsletter that felt really risky, right? I just put out a Substack that was like, I don't think it was really what one thing I would say that isn't for everybody, but something to think about, and you'll know because you'll get sort of a gut shot when I say this. There's some of us that are going to do straight up, like there's the straight up newsletter, there's the straight up LinkedIn post, right? That's like, you know, salesy, right? A lot of people are starting to use AI now. By the way, you can tell AI in a heartbeat. If you're going to use AI to do your posts and tell your stories, please edit it and personalize it. We all can tell. I mean, everybody can tell. And it's the first kind of thing where I'm like, oh, I don't know. That person didn't even take any time to add like a sentence that's personalized. So definitely personalize your AI. I'm not like against AI. I think it's a really like a great time saver, but Make sure that you personalize that narrative. So there's the LinkedIn story that you're going to tell. That's not, LinkedIn isn't necessarily, I personally feel like LinkedIn is not the place to like dump your soul. Okay. It is a hardcore business platform. And it's a place to tell a personal story, but also be like, smart. What are you doing? Are you trying to make more contacts to, sell more services? Are you trying to make more contact? I think a lot of people get in LinkedIn and then they're like, they're confused. They're like, wait, I'm supposed to be raw and I'm supposed to tell a personal narrative. But it is a business platform, which for me is why I started a column on Substack. Because on Substack, I don't sell anything. I just talk and I just share. And it's more of a personal story, but I'm also still aware that I'm building an audience and I'm building a tribe. So I have to think about what is it that they need to hear about me that they can't hear from 2,000 other Substacks, which is not always easy to figure out. And if you spend all your time trying to figure out what other people are doing, you are not taking the time to authentically and truthfully lean into who you are. Just shut out all the other noise. Stop worrying about competing with other people. Start grounding into exactly who you are. So let's talk about like what makes you a storyteller. These are the four areas that I often walk my clients through in terms of how they're going to stand out with people in any kind of writing they do. Now, I coach books. So, this makes an obvious, like, really big difference when you're writing a whole book, getting this right. But you can apply these as well on anything you write, anything. It could be like a newsletter, a blog, um, even if you're writing like a TED Talk, or a speech, which is a ladder up to a book, right? So if you're out and you're doing a lot of talking and you're getting a lot of gigs and people are really liking what you have to say, the next step is writing that book. So you have something for them to take away with and to remember you and to go deeper, right? So what is that tone? Stop trying to be everybody else's tone. Be yourself. Don't be afraid of being yourself. It is critical more than ever that we are ourselves. Are you funny? Are you serious? Are you dry? Are you playful? Are you matter of fact? What is it that you are? And then learn how to take that tone and apply it to the way that you approach your business. It's it's really important. Your voice, what is different about your voice versus tone, right? Well, the voice is how you go into things, right? Are you going to start an article like, hey, you? Or are you going to start an article like, I was smelling flowers the other day? Um, is it gentle or is it authoritative and firm? I'll tell this one story. I'll be like completely honest. So during COVID, um, interestingly enough, I had like a couple of the best years ever of my business. I think everybody decided that they were going to finally write their books. And I was doing very, very well. And someone came to me and said, look, you can really capitalize on how well you're doing by, starting to be more aggressive in your marketing, right? And then like draw people to like a video or something. And I want you to go watch, some of these people that are like really sharp and out there. And so they had me watching this guy, um, Grant Cardone, and I don't know if anybody has taken like his courses, but he's, you know, all about like, he's like his videos are like he's like laying on a Rolls Royce, right? Or he's like in front of his yacht, or he's in like his private plane, right? Like shouting at the camera, you know? So I went out and I found a super nice house to stand in front of, and I just shouted at people. on these clips, like who do it's time, zoom ins to the camera and, swing around pans and I'm finger in the camera. And if you're not writing a book now, then you're losing seconds out of your life. And, a lot of this hard hustle. And I look back now and I'm like, oh God, that was so not me. That is not who I am. I have no desire to force anybody to do anything by like guilt or time crunch or terror. Um, but sometimes we have to learn through those activities to see that we're not being who we want to be and how we want to use our voice to sell to people. The third area is relatability, and this is really where the story comes in, right? If you're selling to moms and you're a mom, you better tell mom stories. You better be like, hey, moms, that time where you wanted to wash your car for 2 weeks and you never could find 4 minutes to get there? I've got a, time calendar program for you or something. I mean, if you're talking to people who are broke and want to be rich, you better talk about being broke because no one is going to want to buy from somebody who's rich unless they see that they were once broke. As a book coach, people want to know A, that I've written books, and B, that I've been through the journey of not believing in myself as a writer, having imposter syndrome, having writer's block, being scared, hating what I write about, throwing my writing away. They want to know I've been through that. They don't want to think they're just coming to a coach who's like perfect and like I've got it all down. No, they want to know that like I've been through the trenches and I've come out on the other side and I can assuredly say how to get it done, right? So what is your relatability and where do you feel like you're like, oh no, that marketing's silly. I don't want to tell them that I lived off the grid for a year. No one's good. But if you're someone who's promoting a flexible life as a coach, you want to talk about that kind of stuff. You want to talk about the kind. I'm a believer of the more wild you can be with your story, the more courageous you can be with your story, the better. Um, there's a there's a like an ad. I haven't seen it in a while here in LA, but it was kind of brilliant. It was like this moderately attractive guy. I mean, he was youngish. He was like in his 20, maybe late 20s, and he was on a bus, and it was like alluding to being he was like I'm available or are you single? And of course like I if like I'm not single, but if it caught my eye, it caught the eyes of many. And yet it was nothing to do with like dating him or being single. It was about an investment, but it was so smart because it got you to like look at it. And so you want to think about like being bold with like the way that you tell your story, like especially if you're funny, especially if you're clever. Don't be afraid to do fun and clever things. Consistency. I can't stress enough consistency. I have been to those social media events where I've been like, oh my God, I can't post every week. I can't, and if you can't, you can't. But do one thing consistently and be in that voice and know what feels good. If it doesn't feel good to post videos on Instagram stories every week, stop doing it. If it doesn't feel good, and I'll tell you something that I just learned recently, which, duh, I've been doing this forever. Like, we always have something new to learn, but like, post on Instagram and TikTok if you're selling widgets. Post on Substack and blogs if you're really drawing in singular, higher ticket, bigger clients, because those are the people that are going to want to know you deeply. The people on Instagram and TikTok are going to buy $17 products. They're just going to, it's just they're not going to necessarily engage in you. I mean, every once in a while I've gotten a book client off of Instagram, but it's been over 11 years, not the norm. I mean, the norm is generally like in person, right? Telling stories in person and having like deeper relationships at networking events. So those are the four areas that are key with storytelling. Um, I love this story with Cardi B. I don't know if anyone knows who Cardi B is. She's a rapper. And she's, been promoting her new album, and she's done this brilliant marketing campaign where she's acting like she's been forced to go out on the street and sell this thing herself. And she's been on like the New York subway, and she's been like, panhandling her album. But what is great about her is she's recently been telling this story about where she came from. And she talks about her grandmother having 10 kids in this wooden house and then going out and farming right after. And she's basically saying, like, if I want to complain about working hard to any woman in my family, they're going to be like, what? We had a baby and then farmed mangoes like 5 minutes later. So, like, go, like, sell your album and stop complaining with your 4 kids in your mansion, right? What's great about this example, whether you care about Cardi B or not, is that she um, couldn't tell this story when she was promoting her album 3 years ago because she didn't have any kids. So her past has changed. So be willing to change your story based on what's happened in your life and bring in your past. Some people just bring in their past and you're like, that's not really applicable right now. But sometimes there are stories from your past that can come up that are suddenly applicable. Use them. Use them. People love to hear my grandmother, my mother, my father. We came from the old school. People love that stuff when it's done right. When it's done right. This was a brilliant, whoever helped her create this, and maybe she created it on her own, but whoever helped her do this was just really smart because it lands for every mother in America. For every mother. Um, So I just wanted to give that. So start thinking about, where your past also can come in. So when we do the breakout rooms, which we're going to do out in a minute, these are just some things that we can be really, it can be scary, to try some new versions of your story. It can be a little bit terrifying, right? And I always give people permission, right? Because and really truthfully, we all hold the permission within ourselves to do what we need to do that feels authentic and truthful for us. But many, many people are waiting for someone else to give them permission. Um, and so until you're able to have that permission within yourself to have the authority to tell stories the way you want to, maybe find an accountability partner, a close friend, somebody who can help you give yourself that permission until you're able to do it for yourself. Permission is like a big buzzword right now. It's all over the place. I hear it all the time at women's events, especially with the sandwich generation, who I am writing a book for right now, women 30 to 60 who just burning the wick at both ends with adult children and young children, and then aging parents, and then 50-hour work weeks, and then 70% of the household responsibilities. It's just bananas. So it's really important to give yourself permission to say what needs to be said, permission to have courage to let go of the should. I want to do it this way, but I really should do it this way because the other way feels like a little dangerous, or like I'm going to blow everything up, or like if I fail, my whole family is going to be screwed, or I'm going to be judged, or that routine feels selfish. Like I should just I should just stay on the course because things have been okay. What happens if you want a life that's more than okay? What happens if you want like a really big life? What happens if you have like really big visions and like really big dreams? You're not going to get it by like playing small. So that small is in the should, right? I should. And by the way, we got that should from historical patriarchal thinking. So that should is not natural for women. It's definitely been something that society has baked into us for a variety of reasons, which is a longer talk that I'm not going to get into right now. Permission to let go of shame that's not indicative of the truth. Just leave that shame at the door. Like shame. We were talking about this, Danielle and Brandon and I were talking about this before the talk even started about worry. Do just worry, just stop worrying. Worrying's not going to get you anywhere. Worrying is just wasted time, especially like all women do as moms is just worry constantly. Are our kids going to be okay? It's like you don't know. I mean, do what you need to do, but just stop worrying, right? Because stuff's going to happen that's like out of our completely out of our ability to even know, right? And we're in very strange times in this country right now anyway, where we don't know anything that's going to happen on any given day. So, worrying is just it's not going to help anybody. I'm going to stop the share for a minute so I can do the breakout rooms. Does anybody have any questions at the moment before we go into breakout rooms? And I'm going to ask some questions specifically at the end and kind of engage people. So let's go into breakout rooms. There was a prompt. Brandon, do you have that prompt or do you want me to type it in? Because I emailed it.
If you could type it in, that would be
I
great. Unless if Danielle wants to throw it in there.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
So what's going to happen is we're going to go into two breakout rooms, and the first thing I want you to do is to have someone volunteer to be like a representative in that breakout room, because that person is going to come back from the breakout room and answer some of my questions. So make sure you have like the one person that's going to do the voice. So here is that's not the one. Let me put the one that actually
I'm
we're.
sorry about that.
It's okay. What is one story you can tell that can help people know where you overcame? Why are you not telling it? Okay. So this is the bottom one is what I want you to think about and talk about within the group. Everybody should have a couple minutes to talk. Um, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna do like 10 minutes, which I find if I don't, sounds like a lot of time, but it's really not. I want you to go deep with each other and really talk about these stories. And then again, assign the representative. And then when you come back, that representative will tell me kind of cumulatively what the reasons why these stories are not being told. So I'm going to do two breakout rooms and just make sure you click on your breakout room. Back to here. So who was representing the first room? Because I think I was in the second room. Jennifer, who was in your room that was going to speak up?
It's actually Gina speaking for us.
Gina, are you here?
I'm here.
What do you think the reasons are for women, or I know there's a few men here not telling their story? What would you encapsulate as some of the holdups?
Well, I think I was really fortunate to be with Jennifer and Randy, who are wonderfully generous with their stories. So that was really lovely to hear. But I think Jennifer touched on some really interesting aspects that I think I've certainly experienced myself, but Jennifer was really eloquent in how she described it. She was getting into a new position that she is right now, and certainly had all of the, had the expertise to be in there, but really it took a while for her to feel comfortable in that role. She talked about getting help and getting a coach and kind of working through all of that. And being able to lean into that vulnerability of, I don't know, and I need some help. I think that's a great lesson that she really modeled in that. And it took her a little bit of time to feel like she was, to really absorb the internal feeling of she is good at her role, that she deserves her role, that she is an expert that people externally already see her as. So I think that took a little bit time. So that might be telling her story in that she didn't necessarily believe the external story that everybody was telling her, that she has got great gut, she's got good intuition, she's got really drive, she's got valid experience. So maybe she wasn't believing her own story that she was hearing in, but it's really been beautiful to see her talk about her evolution, where she really does believe her story now, and is much more likely to talk about her story because she really feels it is her story now.
Well, I love that. What a great synopsis of what Jennifer's gone through. And I will say that for me, oops, sorry. I just lost the screen share. Um, that happened to me too, is just so important with our stories, right? Like when we share them, like Jennifer, what she's been through, now she can go out and she can share that with other women that are in leadership roles or forming businesses so that they don't have to struggle as long as she did. We want to try to shorten the time frame in which other people need to suffer. And that's something we can do with our stories, because our stories that we feel passionate about come from generally us going through it longer than we need to, because we're the first ones going through it. But if we share it with someone else, we get to help them walk through it faster with at least one tool, right? So if you think about your personal stories of what you told, and Ashley, in your room, who was sharing? Did you guys pick someone to talk about what happened in the room?
We did not pick anyone, Ashley or Lisa, if I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if either of you would like to go.
I can go. So I'm sorry, what are we,
What kind of did you glean was a common narrative about the holding back of telling the stories in the room?
the struggle. There's a struggle that people I think get to. And I guess maybe accepting we're trying to get over that struggle, that hill that you climb is always like the one thing that people are a little bit weird about telling. And whether that's the climb itself, whether that's the hurdle that they had, or whether that's the rebuild in the aftermath. I think Lisa had something that was a little bit different where she, was nervous to say it and put it out there. Mine was I didn't have a lot of answers until I did, and now I do. So I think that there's a common denominator, that there's always a hurdle to get over.
Yes. Yes, that's great. I love that. Um, so we're gonna run out of time here. I want you to just write down this journaling moment that you'll have with yourself. What are you seeing around women? And again, I know that there's a few men here. What are you seeing in the circles that you work with, or the social circles that people are? What's a shared narrative? Find that shared narrative. It just needs to be with one other person. And it could be in your social circle. It could be in like your pickleball group. It could be in your yoga class. It doesn't always have to be at your work, but find someone else who shares that narrative, right? So do some journaling, because often we have a tribe that's bigger. Where we get stuck in our story is when we think we're the only ones, right, that have it, right? And that makes us isolate and feel unique, right? And we're not terminally unique, right? There's so many people that are like us going through what we're going through within our stories that we get to share. Um, I think Brandon's gonna, open it up for any Q&A. If we don't have any questions, I have two questions that I can throw out there. This is my free gift that I'm giving away. You can scan the QR code. It's called From Overwhelmed to Organized. It's a guided video exercise. So if you have a lot of scattered ideas and you want to put them into a clear book vision, even if you're not 100% sure you want to write a book yet, a lot of the exercises and the videos are like great worksheets for figuring out your core story of how you want to tell your story. And then at some point that could end up, turning into a book at some point. So, um, and you could also schedule a call with me here at this number. And this will be recorded, so if you don't get it today, you can always go back and get it off the recording. So we have like a minute or so left. Does anybody have any questions?
Quick question. You mentioned something about a Substack column, and I'm just
Yes.
not familiar with that. Where is that?
So Substack it's an app, but it's also
Oh,
a
okay.
platform. It's also a platform. So it's on the web. And I don't really actually use the app that much, but you can use the app. And it's where you write columns. So my column, I'll put my column in the chat and you can use it as an example. I gotta like remember my link. Hold on. Yeah, I can't believe.
That's truly for writers, the Substack.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. There's people on there that have fashion blogs. They have people go on there and give like advice for supplements. I mean, it's a place to curate and narrate whatever your curation or narration is that you choose to do on there.
Mhm.
There's people that talk about like Paris. I mean, it's whatever your jam is. And that's my Substack there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, well, I would say, something to think about, obviously do your journaling exercise. And as you go into this rest of this week, um, think about what would be one of your first steps you would take that would build your confidence in your storytelling in authority. What would be that first step, right? You don't have to take some huge leap. Just look and see what your first little step would be. And I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, so much for spending time here today with me. Appreciate it so much.
You, Kim, that was wonderful. I think that's it. Everyone have a great rest of your day.
Have
We
a
will
great
send out
day.
the recording as well, as I mentioned before, but thank you all for joining and thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks, Brandon, for having me. Thank you.